Dear friends, today we have with us Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs and also the federal MP from Gellibrand, Tim Watts. Minister Watts, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah. Minister, federal elections are around the corner. We still don't have a date, but we know they're going to happen sometime soon in May. So I want to begin by talking about the elections. That if I were to ask you, what are the three most significant steps that your government has taken so that people should go back and vote for Labour? What would they be? Because cost of living is has been a very big issue in the last couple of years.
Look, that's absolutely right. And the next election will be a choice for all Australians, a choice to keep building Australia's future with the Albanese government or be worse off with Peter Dutton. Australia's faced some really significant challenges in recent years. And when we came into government, we inherited an economy where inflation was rising, interest rates were rising, Australians' wages, however, were falling and living standards were falling. We've intervened, and as a result, we now see inflation falling. Inflation, in fact, at a third of what it was when we came into government, interest rates falling, while wages are growing again. Now, the way we've done that is through a series of cost of living interventions. All Australians have received a tax cut under the Albanese government. We've also delivered cost of living measures, so $300 of energy bill relief for all Australians. We've delivered cheaper medicines, cheaper childcare, and we're proceeding to do more of that in the future. So we've made the biggest investment in Medicare bulk billing in Australia's history last year. We're proposing to go even further, making an $8 billion investment to ensure that 9 out of 10 visits from Australians to the doctor are bulk billed. This is a really big investment that delivers cost of living relief for all Australians. It doesn't hit the back pocket when you go to the doctor, but also it's an investment in the kind of society that we want to live in as Australians, and a society that's egalitarian and where universal healthcare is provided to all of us.
Yeah. And Minister, since foreign affairs is your portfolio, I wanted to ask you that the world has seen, a lot of geopolitical turbulence, in the last couple of years, and some of the ripple effects of those turbulences have been felt even in Australia. So it was a twofold question: that how prepared is Australia to deal with major geopolitical incidents that may happen outside, and what steps can be taken to make sure that that the ripple effects don't reach Australia and don't impact social cohesion here.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no doubt that the world is going through a period of significant change at the moment. We are experiencing significant intensifying of geostrategic competition in our own region. We're seeing the effects of climate change around the world. We're seeing economic disruption triggered by that inflationary shock we've seen flowing from the war in Ukraine, the war in the Middle East. And we're also seeing significant demographic change. I always say to people that we can't underestimate the effect of 1 million Indians turning 18 every month, joining the workforce every month. That's an enormous demographic change, and we're seeing it across our own region. So Australia doesn't want to be a mere bystander to that change. We want to shape those international changes to our advantage. And I say to Australians that you should feel confident in our nation's ability to navigate those changes. We've said that we need to use all of the tools of statecraft to try and navigate those changes. So they're the tools that people are familiar with, investing in our defence capabilities, investing in our diplomatic capabilities, our foreign aid and overseas development investments, but also some underappreciated sources of national power. I've recently released a sporting diplomacy strategy that really highlights the significant influence that Australia possesses on the world stage as a result of the global interest in Australian sports expertise. But also, I think the most important source of strength for Australia is our people. Australia is a country where half of us were born overseas or have a parent born overseas. And if you're working in a foreign affairs portfolio like mine, that's a real superpower. We are connected to every corner of the globe through our people. Someone
Yeah.
anywhere in the world can look to Australia and see something of themselves reflected to them. And we in our own society can look in our community and find a point of connection, a point of understanding with someone anywhere in the world. So that really assists our ability to be influential on the global stage.
Yeah, and Minister, following on from that, Australia is one of the most successful multicultural countries in the world. How do you think it has shaped Australia's soft power? Given that only a few decades back, Australia had the White Australia policy, and today
Yeah.
it's so successful as a multicultural society. So, how has that shaped Australia's soft power globally?
Yeah, look, I see this every day in my job, not just as the Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs, but as a member for Gellibrand, a representative of an incredibly diverse community. In fact, the most multicultural suburb in Australia is in my electorate, Point Cook, and representing that Australia, that community in Canberra. I'm really pleased that you flagged that it was not that long ago that Australia didn't see the benefits of this, and in fact had an explicit racial ban in our migration system, the White Australia policy. I think it's really important to talk openly about that, to not pretend that that history didn't happen, because for me, that's part of Australian soft power. To be able to say to the world that the great strength of Australian society is our democracy, our ability to debate issues, to recognise mistakes, and to set a new course to become a greater country tomorrow than we were the day before, that is part of Australia's soft power. That's part of our national story. So I tell that story all the time. And, there's probably no greater example of that than the Australian Indian community. Now, it's not a well-known fact, but the first person denied entry to Australia under the dictation test in the White Australia policy was a person from India. Today, the Indian Australian community is some 10 lakhs strong. It's as diverse as the Indian nation, and it's our fastest growing diaspora community and our second largest diaspora community by country of birth. It's a human bridge between Australia and India at a time when that relationship, I don't think, has been ever more important. We have deepening ties with India economically, strategically, but also really importantly at that community level. And it's only the success of Australian multiculturalism that's enabled us to take advantage of that source of national power.
Yeah. And again, you mentioned India. How important is Australia's relationship with India, especially given strategic issues in the Indo-Pacific and the changing kind of global order and India's place in it? It's the largest democracy, most populous country, as well as the fastest growing major economy. So for Australia particularly, how important is this relationship?
Look, it's an extremely important relationship. As you say, India is the world's largest democracy. It's the world's largest country by population, on track to become the third largest economy in the world by the end of the decade. Australia and India are close partners, and we're becoming closer. We are working intensely closely on strategic policy issues, on defence issues, economically. Australia and India is Australia's fifth largest trading partner. And the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, the ECTA, is turbocharging that growth. And through our people-to-people ties, we are getting closer by the day. We just recently launched a new roadmap for Australia's economic engagement with India that seeks to take that engagement to another level. That strategy that was launched by the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister in Melbourne recently, that I was privileged to be able to attend, identifies 4 superhighways to turbocharge Australia's economic engagement with India. Those 4 superhighways are education, clean energy, ag tech, agricultural industries, and tourism. But also, that strategy identifies 50 specific opportunities for us to work together in areas like, I come back to the sports diplomacy. Australia will be hosting the Olympic and Paralympic Games in Brisbane in 2032, and we know the ambitions for India to host its own Olympic Games soon after. There'll be no country in the world with a better experience of both bidding for an Olympic and Paralympic Games and delivering an Olympic and Paralympic Games. And there's so much that our countries can work on together during this green and gold decade.
Yeah. And Minister, talking about India, there was a security conclave in New Delhi just recently, and reports are coming in that India has urged America to declare the Khalistani group SFJ as a terror organization. So my question was that given that this group has also been accused of promoting a divisive agenda and compromising security here in Australia, has such a request been made to Australia? And if it is made in the future, what would be the government's stand?
Well, look, I would never comment on an intelligence matter. The Australian government would always follow the advice of our intelligence and security agencies. But I'd just make a point more broadly. Australia is experiencing a time where I think our social cohesion is being challenged more than ever before. And this is across a range of different communities in our society. We're a country where half of us are born overseas or have a parent born overseas, and it's entirely unsurprising in that context that people will come to this country with a range of different perspectives, different life experiences. In that context, the ability to disagree peacefully, to express opinions and to disagree in a way that respects fellow Australian citizens is really, really important. So as a broader message, I say to the Australian public that there's no room for hate speech in Australia. There's no room for violence in Australia. There's no room for property damage in Australia. We're a diverse country. Australian multiculturalism works when we work at it. And at this time, when our social cohesion is being challenged, all Australians have an obligation, not just our political leaders, but our leaders in all spheres of the Australian community have an obligation to emphasise that we need to disagree respectfully and be able to get along with each other and get along with people with different life experiences.
Yeah. And just to conclude, Minister, the Indian diaspora, as you said, is, a million strong now. How do you see the contribution of the diaspora here, which, there is a sense that it's not, that well known generally in the larger community, the contributions that this diaspora has made, being one of the highest tax payings, one of the most educated, low crime rates and things like that. So as a final question, what would you like to say about the Indian diaspora in Australia?
Well, look, I've been a member of parliament for about 11 years now, and I've seen the Indian Australian community both grow in number, but also an impact on Australian society. So I can't see a sector of Australian society that Indian Australians aren't making an enormous contribution to, whether that's in our education sector, in our professions, in our businesses, and indeed in our politics. In this term of parliament, Senator Varun Ghosh from the Labor Party became the first Australian senator to be sworn in on the Bhagavad Gita. A friend of mine, Pradeep Tiwari, became the first Indian Australian mayor in the city of Maribyrnong, another Labor mayor in Melbourne's West. So we are seeing the contribution of the Indian Australian community in every imaginable sphere of our life, and that's an enormous benefit for the Australian community. I don't think any country is better placed to take advantage of the growth and the increasing significance of India economically and strategically than Australia. Our people are the secret of our success in that relationship.
Minister Watts, thank you so much for taking out time and speaking with us, and good luck with the upcoming elections.
Thank you.